It's the feast today of a well-known saint, Saint Vincent de Paul, a patron of Catholic charities. Saint Vincent de Paul was the third of 6 children in a peasant family in France. Although he later achieved fame for his dedication to the poor, his early life was spent attempting to escape his humble roots. On one occasion, while he was still in the seminary, he refused to see his father, who had come to visit him, because he felt embarrassed by the shabbiness of his father's appearance. He showed his intellectual gifts from a young age. His family too shared his ambition, hoping that a career in the priesthood would better the family fortune. Studying theology from around age 15, received ordination as a priest at 19, and worked as a tutor to students. He spent most of his early priesthood mingling with members of the elite. He was very well liked because of his charm, intelligence, and sense of humor. 5 years later, in 1605, Vincent was returning home by boat from a trip. He had been on his way to sell some property he had received in an inheritance from a wealthy patron. While traveling, he was captured by pirates who brought him to Tunis in northern Africa. He was sold into slavery and he remained a slave for 2 years. During this time, he prayed to God, telling him that if his life would be spared and he was freed, he would devote the rest of his life to the service of the poor. As time went by, Vincent realized that the mistakes of his young life, especially his focus on wealth and fame, had been caused by a poor faith foundation. Vincent, though actually had initially begun his priesthood with the intention of securing a life of leisure for himself, after hearing the confession of a dying peasant, he underwent a change of heart. He was moved with compassion for the poor and began to undertake missions and founding institutions to help them both materially and spiritually. He founded the Congregation of Priests of the Missions, whereby Vincent and a number of zealous secular priests bound themselves to live in community and devote themselves to the salvation of the poor country people. This was as part of an effort to evangelize rural populations and foster vocations to remedy shortage of priests. He also conducted regular retreats for both priests and lay people, thereby developing further the spirituality of the masses. Simultaneously, always moved by the spirit of practical charity, he stimulated some women of the nobility and organized them into the Ladies of Charity. Using the financial contributions received from them, he made use to build homes for abandoned children, a hospital where thousands of destitute were sheltered and given useful work to do. He also started Foundling Home and Old People's Home, an asylum for the insane, and an institution for the care of lepers. Not long after this, he organized the Daughters of Charity, the first women congregation whose consecrated life involved in an extensive apostolate among the poor, the sick, and prisoners. Their convent was the sick room, their chapel was the parish church, and their cloister was the streets of the city. Humble to the core, he shunned all publicity. He placed his unlimited trust in divine providence and complete distrust in himself. His was a special piety, simple and non-mystical, Christ-centered and action-oriented. On this feast day, let us be assured, like Saint Vincent de Paul, that those who have loved the poor will meet death without fear.